Good morning.
There you go.
Good morning, and welcome to the second of two scheduled budget meetings for the 2020-2021 budget year. We did reschedule another meeting for Friday, the 29th of May to review the capital budget as well. This morning, the Director of Finance, Deborah Kroll, will present the draft operational budget, and the Director of Engineering, Dave Bell, will present the sewer operational budget. The expectation is that Council will provide direction at the end of this meeting to staff with regards to the disposition of the draft budgets. Members of Council were provided with copies of the operational budget on May 13th for review prior to this meeting. During the presentation, members of Council are encouraged to ask questions of the Finance Director for clarification of the budget and to Department Directors for clarification of details. This meeting is being conducted with COVID-19 protocols in place for social distancing and isolation. This meeting is being conducted electronically using Zoom and is being live streamed on Facebook Live. Town Hall is closed to the public. The public may send questions directly to the CAO's email at krice@kentville.ca. This meeting is called to order. CAO Rice, could you please take the roll call?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, all staff are present and Council are all present with the exception of regrets from Councillor Eric Bolin and Councillor Andrews.
Thank you. Our proposed agenda today is, of course, there's two items on it, a new business item with the flood risk infrastructure investment program and the operational budget. If I could have a motion to accept the proposed agenda, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. So we'll move on directly to the recommendation from staff. Director Bell, if you could take us through this, please.
Yes, good morning, Your Worship and Council. I sent you all an email yesterday around 1 regarding we need a I guess a motion put forward for a resolution that we will support this application to the province's FRIP program for flood risk infrastructure investment program. I guess there was a generic sort of resolution made a few councils ago, or maybe just the last one, but this we found out on Friday that it needs to be specific to the project we're going to apply for, with some detailed estimates and certainly like a title or a name to the project. So yesterday's capital, you saw that we were going to be looking at potentially a stormwater management pond and culvert replacement extension up in the Palmer subdivision area. So that is the sort of the background on the project, where we want to make application to the FRIP program for potential 50% funding. The estimated cost for this project is $130,360. So we have the potential, you know, for $65,000 in funding if we're successful. So basically, we need to make a motion, or I make a recommendation to certainly to council to support this grant to the flood risk infrastructure investment program for Palmer subdivision flood mitigation pond at a cost of $130,360.
Thank you. We have a recommendation from staff. Sorry.
I'll move that, Your Worship.
Thank you. And our second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council support the grant application to the flood risk infrastructure investment program for Palmer subdivision flood mitigation pond project at a cost of $130,300 or $360. Discussion? Seeing no hands, we'll move to the question. The question is on adoption of the motion to support the grant application to the Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program for Palmer Subdivision Flood Mitigation Pond Project at a cost of $130,360. Councillor Pulsfer, how say you?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes.
I say yes. The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next budget item, and that's our operational budget. So Director Kroll, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Hopefully I've got this down pat. We'll see if you tell me if you see my my PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Jason, I don't see even where to share it. Jason's helping me.
If you take your cursor to the bottom of your screen, you'll see this green block.
That's what I didn't do. Okay, Jason.
No problem, it disappears.
It disappeared on me.
Yes.
Okay. So I go down here to the PowerPoint presentation. Oops, my cursor's gone again. My mouse is having difficulty. Okay, there we go. All right.
Beautiful.
We see something. Excuse me. Sorry about that. It's my pleasure to bring to you on behalf of the directors of the town of Kentville, the draft 1 of the town of Kentville operating budget. Today, we're going to go through a number of things, the agenda for the operating budget. Basically, I'm going to show you a number of budget drivers that drive this budget. They're basically uncontrollables that we have to build in our budget. We'll talk secondly about the departmental expenditures and what each of the departments proposes to do for the citizens of the town of Kentville. We'll talk then about the revenue streams that we require to fund the departmental expenditures, and this is without the taxation revenue. And then we're going to look at proposed tax rates to balance this budget. As you are aware, all municipal governments have to have a balanced budget. Revenues have to equal expenditures. So therefore, we have a balanced budget to present to you today, and we have proposed tax rates. And then, of course, at the very end, we're going to be looking to you, Council, for some discussion and some direction on what you think and feel about the options we're providing you today. Firstly, we're going to get into the budget drivers. So firstly, we have the capped assessment for 2020. We're going to look at this in comparison to the capped assessment for 2020 compared to 2019. These are the 2019 figures that the cap rate was set at 2.9%. It affected $20 million, $20.8 million of our residential and resource assessments. And based on the municipal mill rate for that year, we lost basically $292,518 in residential and resource tax. The number of counts capped last year was 1,207 out of 2,402, which was about 50.2%. This year, the cap rate was set at 1%, and that cap rate comes from the CPI from Stats Canada for the month of October, and that was the rate for the month of October, 1%. It affects this year 18.6, almost $18.7 million of our residential and resource assessments. The revenue lost based on last year's mill rate, the 1920 municipal mill rate, is $266,360 that we lost in the cap being set at 1%. However, the number of capped accounts has reduced. It's down by about 37 accounts. We have 1,170 of 2,406, which is about 48.6%. So that is the cap rate. The cap, as you recall, was instigated in 2005 by the province of Nova Scotia to prevent sudden and dramatic increases in the assessed value of property in Nova Scotia. And at that time, it was set at 10%. But it stemmed from the massive assessment tax increases basically on the South Shore properties. It was changed in 2007 from a 10% rate to a fluctuating rate based on CPI, which is what we see today. And the province feels that the cap maintains stability, predictability, and affordability for taxpayers. That's been argued by municipal governments for years as not particularly the truth. But anyway, assessment breakdown. This is the snapshot of the assessment breakdown for 2021. This data is arrived from the January 1 roll that arrived for Kentville. It does not include any allowances for losses or adjustments, but this is the raw roll as it comes in. So we see that 82% of our assessments relate to residential, 12% of our assessment base is related to commercial, and we have 6% related to the industrial park or the Kentville Business Park. It's changing a little bit. The residential rate is going up a little bit, and of course, our assessments, residential wise, increased significantly in this assessment role. So the assessments, the taxable assessments for this year, net of the cap and allowance for losses. The taxable assessment roll in 2020 is $521,363,500. It's an increase of $21.1 million, or 4.2%. Residential and resource has increased 4.9% from last year, and that equated to somewhere in the vicinity of about $20.5 million in assessment dollars. Commercial is down. Commercial historically decreases in each assessment roll. We're looking at commercial down about $1.9 million, or about 3%. And the payments, the PILTs, or the government payments in lieu of tax from the federal and provincial government, are up 16.3%, or about $2.5 million. And that purely relates to the Justice Department. The old Kings County building is now fully assessed to the province of Nova Scotia. So we are going to receive a PILT for the full amount on that particular property. That's why the change is here. This does not include the business park assessments because the business park is rated separately. But the increase in the assessments in the business park was about 3.8%. So what does this mean for revenue? Using last year's mill rates, this is net of the cap and allowance for losses. We see that residential and resource will provide us with new revenue at last year's mill rates of $221,000. Commercial is down $74,900. The payments in lieu of tax by the federal and provincial governments up 16.3% gives us $80,200 more dollars to work with this year. So the net increase for tax purely for residential, commercial, and the PILTs, $226,300. There are changes in the area rates. That's going to give $86,000 more in our tax levy. However, we don't keep that money. That money is handed off to the fire department and to the Kentville Water Commission. And there's also a change in the economic development rate revenue of $800. That money we also collect, but we don't keep. We hand it over to Kentville Business Community. However, we will achieve somewhere in the vicinity of $313,100 more in new tax revenue this year. There's also a change in the special rate, which is the Kentville Business Park. The Kentville Business Park rate remains the same, but because the assessments have increased, we will get $26,200 more dollars related to the business park. All in, all sources of revenue to the town of Kentville, $339,300. Bearing in mind that we don't keep a good part of that. We don't keep the area rates and we don't keep the economic development rate, but we will keep the $226,300 plus the $26,200. Anybody has any questions, you can stop and ask me anytime. So we get into some of the mandatory charges right now. We have taxes that we collect for the province of Nova Scotia and property valuation services. We cannot escape these. These are mandatory, charged by the province of Nova Scotia. We're billed quarterly for most of these. We have the assessment. I'll show the comparison last year and this year. Assessment has increased very slightly, $800. Corrections is down this year, $400. No change in prosecution, no change we anticipate in housing. Housing is a bit of a wild card. It's up and down and up and down. We've been budgeting $90,000 every year. Some years it's a little over $90,000. Some years it's a little under $90,000. But we find this is kind of the sweet spot to keep it at. The library has asked for an increase this year, $5,800. We are still paying them on the old rate, but the new rate has been built in case council wishes to hand off the additional $5,800 this year. Education is down this year. It's down $20,300. The Kentville number of students decreased by 27 this past year. The overall student population for the Annapolis Valley region increased by 72. Most of them went to the County of Kings. They gained 108 students. Wolfville lost 28 students, and Berwick gained 12 students, and Hansport gained 7 students, but Kentville was down 27. So it gave us a savings in our education rate, probably for one of the first times since I've seen it, of 20,300. That rate, that cost center usually increases significantly each year. All told, mandatory expenditures decreased by just a little under 1% in this budget. The mandatory rate is decreased this year it's about 1 4/5 cents than it was last year. The mandatory rate this year, which we separate on our tax bills, is about 37 cents of our total tax levy. So we'll move on to joint boards and commissions. We pay our service delivery partners. We have agreements with many of them, and we cannot escape these charges. So the joint boards has increased this year 3.2% over last year. It's $37,200 increase to this budget. The Kentville Volunteer Fire Department increases $11,900. Now, council approved the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department budgets earlier this year at a council meeting. And of course, the fire department budgets also went to the Joint Fire Services Commission for approval there, and it was asked to be sent to the joint councils, County of Kings and the Town of Kentville. Town of Kentville did approve both the operating and the area rate budgets. King's expense inspections services are basically an estimate. We know that Kings County is rejigging the cost of providing these services on our behalf. We may be looking at alternative options with sharing with other municipal units. It's being explored, but we have built in quite an increase based on the early indications from the County of Kings. Remo hasn't changed. We expect that we are going to be staying, and this was a 2-year pilot project over the past 2 years with Remo. I have not heard that we want to back out of that agreement. This relates to emergency preparedness for the Valley region, and I dare say we want to keep that on track. So I have left that in the budget. No change there. King's Transit Authority has increased its cost to us by $19,900. We share 20% of the cost of King's Transit. King's Point to Point, a very minor increase, basically cost of living, $300 increase there. Valley Waste is a big one. It has decreased about 6.4% from last year, $41,700. We're looking at our share increasing to 9.97% of the new intermunicipal services agreement related to Valley Waste. No change in King's landfill costs. We left that at $8,000, and the Valley Wren has increased about 9% from last year. They're looking at, they have taken in some of the Annapolis Valley Chamber of Commerce work, so we are giving them an extra $2,400 this year. All told, $37,200 increase in joint boards.
Deb, can I just ask, sorry, I have my hand raised.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
That's okay. No, that's all right. Just a quick question about the REN, the increase to 29,000. And this may be for Sandra as well, Your Worship. Does that include the proposed increase at that very last budget meeting that we went to with the REN?
Yes, it does.
Does? Okay, great.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just have a quick question for Deb about the King's inspections and the 911. The inspections part, I understand. What's the cost on the 911, Deb?
It's not a great cost. I just want to look it up here. It's not a large cost. It's about $18,000 a year that we pay for the 911 system. County of Kings bills us for that. It's our share of belonging to the 911 system.
Okay.
Okay.
So the 125, that's if we decided to leave the county, that's a position and a half. Would that be a good estimate?
I think we're looking at, I'm not sure, CAO Rice may want to jump in here. We may be looking at sharing a position with other units.
So, yeah, so right now there's some conversations going on between 3 other units around sharing this service, inspection, fire inspection. But at the present time, we haven't gotten far enough for a proposal, so we have to build in our costs.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is ongoing discussions right now around that with potentially 3 to 4 municipal units.
Okay, and I guess my initial thought was the 125, if we said, you know what, we'll do it on our own, at salary levels would be a position and a half, probably a little bit of an allowance for a vehicle.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I would assume it could potentially be that, but I haven't really looked at what those salaries are at this time.
Yep.
But potentially, yes, it could be 1 to 2 positions, but that's kind of not what we're looking at.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to some commitments that have been made by council or agreements that have been made that we cannot escape from. The reduced tax, which is section 69 and 71, is increased slightly by $900, and basically it's due to the uptake on those programs. That's why that increase is sitting there. KPS dispatch services, Kentville Police Services is now purchasing its dispatch services from the Bridgewater Police Service, which provides, of course, increased safety for our officers. We're looking at that increasing the budget for dispatch by $41,900. Custody services is moved up $5,000, and this relates to the contract that we have with the RCMP New Minas for lockup services. It was only on stream part year last year. This year we've built in the full year for lockup services, so it's an increase to that line item of $5,000. Economic development levy is transferred to Kentville Business Community. This is the last year of a 4-year agreement with Kentville Business Community. The rate has changed based on the agreement that we have with KBC. So it does provide for an extra $2,100 to be collected and paid to KBC. The PACE program is an application form that was sent in. It's related to belonging to a joint PACE application that was awarded, I believe, about a year ago. Therefore, we're going to pay that $5,000 to the organization that is going to be making that application for us. We have grants. There's the grant for the soccer dome. We had committed, council had committed $5,000 over 3 years. This is the last year for that grant, but there is no change. It's $5,000. And the library lease, we have to increase it by the cost of living for the month of February, which was 2.9%. So the cost related to leasing that building has gone up for the library, $1,900. So all told, commitments increased about 16.7% from last year, about $56,800. So we have other fixed expenditures. These other fixed expenditures are required by legislation or GAAP. We have debt repayment. The debt repayment this year has reduced by $61,300. The allowances, this is allowances for doubtful accounts and the sick leave allowance is not increased. It remains the same as last year. Area rates are increased $118,200. The fire area rate is increased from last year by $36,500. And as I mentioned before, that area rate budget was approved at the Joint Fire Services Committee and forwarded to Town Council for also approval. So that money has been built into the budget. The hydrant area rate increases $81,700. And this is the amount that we will add to our tax bills to collect tax, which will be paid over to the Kentville Water Commission in order to support fire services. the fire hydrants and the larger pipes that run through our town to support firefighting. This is mandated by the Utility and Review Board. This year it is a formula based. Before it was a flat rate, but once there's a certain target met in the expenditure side of the Kentville Water Commission, it moves to a formula base. The formula base provides that the town must collect an additional $81,700 this year to transfer over to the fire department. All told, town of Kentville pays $496,400 to the Water Commission for firefighting hydrant services, and the County of Kings it's also jointly shared with them based on the number of hydrants in each town or municipality. County of Kings will pay $224,800 directly to the Kentville Water Commission. The total mandated this year by the Utility Review Board for the water services, $721,200. And just for your information, if you want to know how many hydrants there are in Kentville, there's 276 hydrants, which is about 68.8%. And we have 125 hydrants in the County of Kings, about 31.2% in total. At the date of this budget being prepared, there are 401 hydrants that apply to this particular formula. That's a lot of information, but hopefully you find it interesting. Other fixed expenditures increase in this budget, therefore $129,800, or about 6.9% from last year.
Deputy Mayor, you have a question?
I do. Thank you, Worship. Deb, the debt repayment, is that principal and interest, or just principal, or? And I guess what is the total debt that if a billionaire came to Kentville and said, I want to pay off all your debt, what size check would he have to write to pay that off?
He'd have to write about a $5 million check, $6 million check to write off all the debt. This includes the short-term interest and principal payments, the long-term interest and principal payments. It's all in.
Okay, so it's principal and interest. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All good.
Moving right along. We're moving along to the remuneration piece, which is the town's full-time employees, the non-bargaining employees, the QP employees, and the APA employees. Basically, remuneration in this budget decreases by $10,100 over last year. This is because we've experienced a great deal of turnover in our employee streams this year. We've got a number of new employees. We've had a number of retirements this year, and bringing on new staff means that there are significant changes in remuneration to those employees. But breaking it down, we have non-bargaining. The non-bargaining lift is $39,900 to this budget. It relates to the agreement or the policy that we have for the non-bargaining units, that their rates of pay increased by an average of the cost of living for a 12-month period, and this year it was 1.8%. APA stat M, that's policing, that's the bargaining unit. That relates to the pure increase there relates to changes in PSAB accruals. There is no increase built right into the police budget in this particular section for an APA settlement. They're outside a collective agreement at this time. It expired at the end of 2019. The QP bargaining unit, there has been a settlement with that particular union, and their lift was 2.1%. We're looking at $29,800 increase to this budget. The benefits, because of the change in employees, have moved down $17,900. The PSAB accrual for all employees has increased $15,700. That's basically a booking entry that we have to accrue all wages up to the end of March 31st, 2021. And class changes and merit increases, class changes in the policing service and merit increases for other employees, a total $30,900. And there are a variety of staffing changes, people moving in, people moving out, part-time people moving in and whatnot, took the budget down to $111,500. So remuneration all in for the 2021 year, $5.1 million.
Deb?
Deb?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Worship. So I've been asked in the past, why, and when we go through why is it some departments and some people, their salaries are there, and other ones, is there any way we can get salaries itemized? So for example, you go under economic development, the salary's there, and there's only one person for the most part that's there. But when you go to planning or administration or whatever, it's a lump sum. Is there any way we can get those a detailed summary instead of just a lump?
I guess I could let CAO answer that question.
Okay.
A simple answer is no.
Oh.
Yeah, we can, you know, I will share with you the each department and the salary, but we don't share the individual employees' salaries. That's protected under privacy, and that's never shared with anyone.
So not even council can see that?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Do we anticipate any change in staffing levels due to COVID-19 in this budget? So will any of these figures probably fluctuate downwards because of less staffing is my question.
No, that was one of the goals, and we were actually very successful during COVID. We were able to keep all of our staff working full time. Mind you, some of them did have to work from home, but now we have all of our staff are back to work in town hall, public works, all the departments. The staffing are all back, and we're going full steam ahead, and so. The only change in staffing that is reflected in this budget is the hiring of the GIS officer that was approved by the police board and forwarded to council for approval. And that's the only increase in staff, and there's no intention for any decrease in staff.
Thank you very much.
All good, Deb?
Okay. We'll move on then to the summary of the fixed expenditures. So just itemizing all those fixed costs for you. You can see mandatory costs down $14,100, joint boards up $37,200, commitments are up $56,800, other fixed expenditures are up $129,800, remuneration down $10,100. The total of fixed expenditures in this budget $10.5 million compared to last year's figures 10.3. We're looking at a total expenditure budget this year of $13.5 million. It's up $215,600 all told from last year. $199,600 of that increase relates to increases in fixed expenditures. The budget remaining that we're going to talk about, or council has control over, about 21.9% of the budget, 2.9, almost $3 million. The increase from last year on the remaining budget to be debated today is about $16,000. So if there are no other questions, we'll move right into the expenditure side of the.
Councillor Maxwell, your hand is still up, or new question?
No, it should be down.
Okay, Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question about the purchase of the dispatch unit from Bridgewater, that increase for that year over year, which I understand. Deb, will that be the same increase each year thereafter? Like,
I'll have to defer to Chief Chiquetto because I'm not sure what the contract, I haven't seen the contract myself, or maybe CAO knows.
It's 4% over the per year over the contract increase.
Sorry, CAO Rice, I was talking, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, no, 4%. There's a 4% per year increase built in over the life of the contract.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, oops. Somebody saying something?
I said all good.
Oh, okay. We're going to go through the expenditure side of the ledger in the same order that you see it in your reports that you see every month that I present to you. So the first section is section 9, legislative, which is your budget. Last year we looked at, we had a figure of 248,000. This year we're looking at a figure of 287,500. It's a change of $39,500 or 15.9%. Looks like a lot, but the big kicker in your budget this year is the $40,000 cost for the election. We have remuneration and benefits related to council, related to the COLA, cost of living, $4,500 in this budget. And your expense accounts have been reduced by $5,000 because of less traveling due to COVID-19, less conferences and that type of thing. So we've moved the mayor's expense account down $3,000, and we've moved the councilor's expense accounts all told down about $2,000 for a total of $5,000. So we're looking at $39,500 is the increase in the legislative budget. A portion of the election costs will be withdrawn from operating reserves to help fund that. We tuck $8,800 aside every year to pay for the election. So we have most of the election already paid for. And you'll see that when we talk about the revenue streams. Any questions on legislative?
CAO, you have a question?
Not a question, Your Worship, but
Okay.
I just would like to add to Director Kroll's comments with regards to us taking some of the costs and your council expense accounts. In no way is that reflecting anything else except the fact that all the conferences that and training that council usually has the advantage of using, there weren't any. So FCM and NSFM, all those conferences have been canceled. So that was the only reason for taking the expense accounts down somewhat. But yeah, I just didn't want you to think that we were just slashing your expense accounts for no reason.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I've noticed on page 9.1, we have a line of council benefits at 3,700 and generic expense at 6,300. What are those in particular? I don't understand those.
The generic expense account of $6,300 is basically expenditures related to council gatherings or some such thing that can't be separated individually into each of the individual accounts. So it's basically there to put council expenses that we can't separate between any of you in particular.
That would be a lunch meeting, Councillor Maxwell. We don't very often do meetings over meals,
Right.
but when we do, it comes out of this account.
Okay, thank you. And the other council benefits?
There are some counselors who have tapped into the group insurance plan. And so that is what that relates to.
Okay, thank you.
So there's 3 members of council on the group benefits.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on then to general administration, which is the CAO's office and the finance department. We're looking at an increase in this budget of $12,700. It's about a 0.9% increase. The total budget all in about $1.4 million. Remuneration and benefits in this budget for the employees related to this department has moved upwards $800. Of course, we have had some changes in the personnel in the town and general administration department. So the net cost for the increase in remuneration benefits is $800. Office expense is up $5,200. The big kicker there is the insurance cost moved up $6,100 this year for errors and omissions and liability insurance. The CAO's travel account was reduced by $3,000 and convention was also reduced by $2,000. We had some increase in the training budget, just a slight increase because we expect to have more virtual training this year. And there were some small increases in the postage and the telephone accounts based on actuals from this year. Information technology moves up $1,200. The operational section moves down $2,300 in for information technology. The conferences that the IT specialist attends were removed. Those conferences have been canceled this year. Special projects increases about $3,500 this year, and this relates to purely technology replacements for council. in the fall after the election. There's also there's going to be money in the special projects account for cybersecurity training as well. Under the building, we have moving down $1,300. We have a $5,000 reduction in repairs and maintenance to the Calkin building this year, but it's offset by increases in the town hall electric costs and some cleaning supplies. The cleaning supplies are a little bit higher this year because of the COVID-19 mandates. We have, as we discussed yesterday, grants. We did the grants yesterday. The Canadian Legion grant was removed from the grant listing. They didn't apply for a grant this year, so that $1,500 was removed yesterday. And we have set up a grant contingency of $7,000 that sits there for no specific purpose, but if some organization comes to council, we do have $7,000 in that account that can offset a request from an outside organization. Assessment services, which is the mandatory cost, sits in this budget. It increases by $800. You saw that previously in a former slide. The debt interest and discount related to this particular department is down $400. That's a fixed cost. We have to pay that. And reduced taxes, which is also a fixed cost. That's section 6971, are approved by council. It moves up $900 purely due to the uptake of the program by citizens who qualify. So we're looking at draft 1 increase for general administration up $12,700.
One question, Deb. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Deb, the increase in the insurance year over year, the 6,100.
Yes.
I remember when that went out to tender, and there was a substantial savings.
Yes.
From our last provider. So I'm assuming it's still substantial enough that we would still stay with them.
We have a contract with them. So yes, we have to stay with them. This is the 4th year that we are in. This is the 4th and last year for this. There are a great deal of explanation as to our premiums increase this year. They did go up significantly, but it relates to the fact that the insurance supply is being reduced. There are very few insurance carriers now that want to carry municipal insurance. It's a huge liability. So there's few carriers in the country that are actually looking to insure municipalities. But there have also been catastrophic events that have happened, not only in Nova Scotia, but worldwide, that affects, of course, the insurance overall. So we're looking at flooding, the flooding in 2019. The October 16, there was flooding in Nova Scotia that caused about $15 million in damages just to Cape Breton alone. So we're picking up not only that type of thing, but we're picking up the wildfires in California, the Me Too litigation, the opioid epidemic, the California wildfires. All that stuff is built into the insurance industry, and rates overall have increased, not only municipal wise, but personally. Most of us have seen increases in our own personal household and vehicle insurance because of this. So while we have an increase, of about $48,000 over last year on our insurance policy. It is supported by the fact that we have very few carriers of municipal insurance, as well as catastrophic events that are beyond anybody's control that are affecting the insurance world. And we actually all of us are picking up that cost.
Exactly. So it seems pretty nominal then. Okay, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I'm wondering about the legal costs. We don't, under general admin, there's all these different categories and you have them listed here, but we don't have anything showing for legal. And I've had, yes.
Continue with your question.
Okay, so I've had a number of people question me on our total legal costs, and it's not easily found here. You have to go through every individual budget to find out what's been budgeted for legal. And I'm just wondering, like, to me, that's not very transparent. Is it possible to have legal as a department of its own, and then show each line? So for example, what the retainer is basically for general, and then how much is spent for legal under sanitary, sewer, police, transportation. rather than somebody going through this entire binder of documents to find out how much the town of Kentville is spending on legal services.
Well, we do have, each department picks up its own legal costs. That's just, we feel fair to each department rather than have it sit all in general administration or sit all in planning or whatever. Most of our legal costs in the past few years have been in the planning department because of the economic development movements in the town of Kentville. However, on page 10.3 of the administrative budget, we do have a legal and audit information there that includes the audit proposal that we have a 5-year plan with our current provider. And then it talks about the legal retainers and specific services that we anticipate to be budgeted in that particular department.
I see that. And I saw that it was in each department, but if a citizen wanted to know how much we were spending on legal services, what I'm saying is they would have to go through this entire, I don't know how many pages are here to add it all up, which I did, and I have a figure here, but I don't think that's very transparent. So I'm wondering if it's possible in the budget to build in a cover page like we do for recreation or planning or whatever, itemizing the legal services, and you could name each department, within that or on that page.
Yeah. No,
you know what I'm saying?
If council wishes to see that information, I mean, this would be budgeted. If we're putting it in the document, it's the budget, it's not the actual. If council wants to see a page on legal services and by department, I can certainly do a page on legal services. It will sit outside, probably in the front of the binder for your information rather than mixed somewhere throughout the department, some departments. So it'll
Right.
sit outside, but I can do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, if a public is looking at our budget, they don't really see what we're budgeting for legal. And I don't think they should have to go through this entire document to find that. It's just transparency is all it is. Right now it looks like it's hidden, which I realize it isn't because it's in there, but they'd have to have access to the entire budget to find that.
Not to worry, I can do that.
Thanks, Deb.
Very good.
We're moving on.
Yes, please.
The next one is community policing. The protection department's going to be a number of slides. Right now, we're looking at protection, community policing. We're looking at the community policing budget moving up from $2.34 million to $2.38 million. This is the change of $42,400 or 1.8%. Remuneration and benefits related to this budget moved down $18,500. And it basically is decreased because of the changes in the KPS complement, new officers, and the removal of the jail guards that we were paying from this budget. Uniforms, office expense in uniforms moves up a net of $18,500. We have an increase in uniforms for $5,000. Many new officers have come on stream. And the office expense has been moved up. And I guess the bigger kicker in the office expenses is the insurance as well, $7,400 increase in the insurance. And I spoke on that a few moments ago as to the increases in insurance overall throughout the whole town, though this is the liability and error and emissions insurance. Other expenses increase related to maintenance of the breathalyzer, radar supplies, live scan maintenance, and the Axon fee. So that's been built into the budget this year. Under building, there's a reduction in heat, lighting, and electricity. So you'll see that we have some savings there of $11,300 under building. Under communications and IT, we've moved to the dispatch, as I talked about before with the Bridgewater Police Service. We're looking at $44,000 increase there. Vehicle is up $2,000, and it purely relates to the increased insurance premiums for the police service. And custody and detention of prisoners is up $5,000, and that relates to the purchased service from the RCMP for lockup services in New Minas. So all in, the Kentville Police Service community policing budget is moving up $42,400 from last year.
We have one question, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. On page 11 dash 12, we have the crossing guards. The police commission made a recommendation that we cut back one of the crossing guards, the one down by the trail. And I don't know where that was supposed to come up in the process, but that was voted on recommendation from the commission. And it doesn't seem to be reflected here. I know where there are 3 guards, but we wanted to we recommended to eliminate one of those positions.
One of those guards is related to the County of Kings. It is not a town employee. The County of Kings manages that particular crossing guard. Am I correct, Chief Ketto?
No, there are 3. There are 2 up at KCA, and then there's one at Aldershot. So the Aldershot one is
The County of Kings is County of Kings. We bill the County of Kings for that particular crossing guard.
Right. So have we eliminated the crossing guard at the trail on Gary Morse Drive there or whatever? Gary Pearl Drive. There was a crossing guard on Gary Pearl Drive, and there's one up on Park Street.
that's not reflected yet in this budget.
Okay, we don't have to reflect that, or?
No, I think that with all due respect, under remunerations and benefits, I believe, Deb, it got built in there because of, there's a GIS officer built in there, but we also took off one of the
Jail guards that are gone, not the crossing guards.
okay, so we didn't take out a crossing guard,
No.
but it does reflect the addition of the GIS officer on remunerations.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so then there is a little bit more to be taken out of that budget, Councillor Maxwell.
Okay, it was just a recommendation that came from commission, and I don't know where we didn't bring it to council, or I don't know if it was passed through, but that was a recommendation. So
Yes, and we'll adjust the remunerations benefits there to reflect that.
thank you.
Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. I'm sorry, so is this something that was going to be recommended to council, or does it need to be? I'm just trying to get my head around why we're getting rid of a crossing guard. Sorry, that's all new to me.
I can explain that. It was discussed at commission. We were looking for a way to pull back a little bit on the police budget because it is pretty heavy. And we looked at that one. Park Street is a very, very busy crossing, and we definitely need a crossing guard on Park Street. But we looked down at Gary Pearl Drive, and we said probably an EA could staff that one from the school. And so the commission decided that we would pull back that one crossing guard there and let the school handle that one, and we would maintain the other one.
So I guess my question would be, can the commission do that?
Well, that's part of it. Police chief?
I think council will have to agree to it. Am I correct, CAO?
That's correct. It was a recommendation that came from the Board of Police with their budget. And so then the budget gets built into this, and then it's council that ultimately approves any changes. So it would be council at this point that would determine whether that change was acceptable or not.
Okay, that makes yeah, all right, makes a little bit more sense. I just wasn't aware of it. That's probably why.
So
Perfect.
what is the savings here on the entire police budget?
It's about
$12,500.
12,000 on a $1 million budget?
Well,
Yeah.
we looked at it like, it would have paid for one of the pieces of equipment that they wanted.
So you're transferring operational to capital to pay for a piece of equipment?
Well,
Has this been discussed with KCA and their staffing levels for EAs?
well, as far as I know, Mayor Snow, this was a commission discussed decision. I'm not the chair of the commission, And this should have been brought to council from the commission. We
Okay.
don't have a representative sitting on the commission from KCA.
Well, you're the representative on the PTA, right?
Yes,
What
and as their representative, I agreed that an EA at that spot would be more than capable of conducting the business on that crosswalk. And we also have a former school principal on the commission who also agreed with that.
So I'm not asking the question of a person's capability. What I'm asking is, do they have the number of hours to be able to put a person on that crosswalk? Because it is a very busy crosswalk as kids go to school early so they can play on the skateboard park before classes. And then as well, the trail is one of our active transportation routes, and it's one of our designated school routes. So we have a lot of kids who are on scooters and pretty excited going to school and that sort of thing. And I know there's flashing lights there, but as well, Gary Pearl is a very, very busy street at intake and outtake of the school day, and transportation there is just going willy-nilly. I mean, we had an incredible amount of traffic last year, such that they had to put rules in place to move the traffic along that part of the street. So is this a wise decision to save less than 1% of a budget?
Well, if you understand how the EAs operate, they are there at the very beginning of school, and they are there at the very end of school. And their hours can be distributed any way the school sees fit. And so we felt that that position was easily able to be looked after by the school, and perhaps even the PTA could fund it a little bit. But that's what we were looking at. And we have a very big police budget. And basically the commission was looking for ways to find savings in the cost without that budget soaring and soaring and soaring. So that was one thing that we recommended. And it was almost a unanimous vote. There was one vote against that, but everybody else voted for it.
Deputy Mayor, your hand is up.
Yes, I would just like to say I was the one who didn't support it. And as for Councillor Maxwell's question, why wasn't it presented before? Well, there's several changes to this budget in several departments, and not everything is brought before. We're looking to getting a new car and adding a GIS officer. None of that was brought to council before. So I guess not absolutely everything gets brought before council when changes are proposed in budget. The other thing I will say is not only does this particular location crossing guard have one crosswalk, but this person affects two. There's across Gary Pearl, and then there's across the entrance to the school parking lot. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, the same.
Councillor Maxwell, can you please wait? Councillor Andrew.
Yeah, my take on this is just as a parent and watching that, and like Councilor Gerard said, there's the crossing guard is using two. You have a bunch of people, parents trying to get their kids to school on time, and it's quite a lineup. It's not an ideal situation, and and it's very busy, and more often than not, I am stopped there. I'm just wondering, my understanding was, I guess, all of that aside, I think it's important, and I don't think Councillor Maxwell is saying anything against that. My understanding was that the EAs were struggling with the greeting at the main door, and because there had been an appeal for parents to volunteer to do that. So if there's already kind of a struggle to figure out how they're going to do that, I'm not sure that it's something without, it doesn't seem like we have kind of the information to really support really a negligible cost when we look at the overall budget there. Thanks.
Thank you. CAO.
Yeah, if I may, your worship and council, you know, a cost savings was the initial reason for this being brought forward by the commission. But at this point in the presentation, it isn't included, so it didn't get included. But I think that if you can kind of just hold your decision until you see the bottom line on our budget and what we're presenting, what the staff are presenting, that may change your minds on whether or not this is something that would require a lot of debate. You know, just a suggestion at this point, because we have a ways to go yet. But I think when you see the bottom line of the budget that staff has put together, that I think you're going to be fairly pleased with what you see.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maxwell, your hand is still up. Did you have something else to add?
Yes, I just wanted to add as well that that the police are also there at the beginning of the day, or they're supposed to be, and a crossing guard could be me, a crossing guard could be an EA. It doesn't really matter, but you know, sitting on the commission, if the commission makes a recommendation and the recommendation is not brought through, you know, kind of calls into question the value of the commission. And so I don't mind debating it. It was a recommendation from commission. So I agree with the CAO. I mean, let's continue on.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, your hand is still up. Did you have something else?
Yeah, I'll defer this to Julia, but Councillor Maxwell's assertion that the police are there every morning, I think is just false. That was an idea that came from a commission several years ago, that the previous chief was instructed when he can, it would be nice to have a police presence there at the main door or at the gate to redevelop the community officer sort of initiative if they had time. So it's not a matter of the police are there every morning. But again, I'll defer that to Julia, and you know, perhaps she'll call me wrong.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, if I may. So yeah, the police cannot commit to being there every morning. You know, we certainly can try to be there in the morning, but we have no idea what calls for service would come in. So we cannot commit to being there every morning. We do try to make an appearance every day to help with the traffic loop and that sort of thing, but we cannot commit to it. I would suggest that this year you're going to see some savings in that budget anyway, because school has been canceled. So probably a third of that budget is not going to be utilized from April 1st to the end of June. So there will be a little bit of savings in that, even if we didn't move forward at this point with cutting the position. But either way, it isn't a big cost in the overall picture. So we'll support whatever you decide.
All right, thank you. All right, Deb, moving on.
Okay. The next section under protection is sales of services. This is the services provided by the Kentville Police Service for backcheck. We're looking at this budget at moving down just very slightly, $148,200, and it purely relates to remuneration and benefits related to the backcheck personnel. There was a salary increase of COLA, as I mentioned before, for all non-union people, but there were some changes in personnel in that particular section as well. So all in, that section has moved down $100 from last year. Moving on, the next one is law enforcement. Law enforcement includes corrections and prosecution, as well as what we were just discussing, the crossing guards and the bylaw parking enforcement officer. We're looking at a decrease in this budget, $4,900, pardon me, down to 2.1% from last year, $224,600 all in. The corrections budget, which is mandated by the province of Nova Scotia, is down $400. No change in prosecutorial costs to the province of Nova Scotia. Legal has been moved down in this particular department by $10,000, and that relates to any legal expenditures related to policing issues, but also the collective agreement negotiations, that type of thing with the APA union. So we have moved that down from last year's figure by $10,000. Remuneration and benefits relate to the parking enforcement officer, and bylaw and miscellaneous expenses relate to uniforms for that particular individual, and ticket books, and some of the other benefits related to the parking enforcement by law enforcement officer. So all in, that particular segment has moved down $4,900 from last year.
All good.
Moving on, protection. We're looking at fire protection next. Fire protection has moved up $130,100, 17.1% from last year. This is all related to transfers to other organizations, departments, or joint boards. We have the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department operating budget, which is part of one of our joint boards, moving up $11,900. The Kentville Volunteer Fire Department area rate is paid to the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department, collected on their behalf. They had a ratepayers meeting that approved the rate for 2020-2021. It moved up slightly to about 3 3/4 cents from last year's figure of about 3 1/5 cents. It adds up to basically a $36,500 increase in what we collect from our taxpayers and remit to the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department. We also receive a 4% administrative fee for doing this service for the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department. They piggyback on our tax bills as they don't have the taxing authority that we do. The hydrant area rate, as I mentioned before, moves up $81,700, and this amount is collected based on UARB direction and is paid entirely to the Kentville Kentville Water Commission. This year, the increase is $81,700, and that is because it has moved from a flat rate to a formula-based fee. So we're looking at draft 1 of the fire protection budget, moving up $130,100.
All good.
Protection, emergency measure, and other. Protection, emergency measure, and other relates to the debt charges for protection. This is police protection in this case, emergency measures and other protective services. So this whole budget has moved up $38,500 from last year, 27.9% increase. Debt interest for protection, police services, has moved down $5,900 from last year. That's the interest on outstanding long-term debt related to the police department. EMO joint boards has remained the same. The 911 system, there's a slight increase there that is paid to the County of Kings, moved up slightly at $300. No change in animal control, and building inspection and fire inspection, which have been talked about before, have moved up $15,000 for building inspection, $15,600 for building inspection, $28,500 for fire inspection, all in draft 1 of this budget for emergency measures / other, moved up $38,500.
Deb, one question. I probably should have asked it earlier, but building inspection and fire inspection, do we pay a flat fee or do we pay a per inspection fee?
I believe it's based on the numbers of, it's a fee basically that they bill out to us, but it's based on actual usage. But there's calculations done in the background by the County of Kings, the number of services that they provide to us.
Okay.
Am I correct, Gail?
Yes, and then we were notified this year that they have increased that cost based on a formula that they're using with regards to the costs of the administration of the program. So with the cost of the new municipal building, they've changed and they've increased that. They're using a different formula.
Okay, thank you. All good.
Okay, we're moving now into the transportation section of the budget. There's a number of slides related to transportation. The first one is common services, and this is basically the Public Works Department itself. The office expenditures related to the Public Works Department and the like. So we're looking at this budget moving up $37,200, about 4% from last year, to a total of $965,700 this year. Remuneration and benefits for the Public Works Department has moved up $16,100. We have not only the lift for the cost of living for non-union personnel contained in this department, we also have a collective agreement that moved the wages and the benefits up related to the crew, the work crew who are unionized. 2.1% was the mandated amount related to the collective agreement. Office expenses are moved up this year by $10,700. Air and emissions insurance in this particular department, it's moved up $9,200. As well, we have the director on stream full year, so that director's expense account was moved up slightly. We also have with a slight increase in the training budget, about $1,000 was increased in the training budget. A very small increase in the building budget itself, $400, and vehicle is moved up $10,000. The increase in insurance in this particular budget is $2,500, and there's going to be a small increase in the lease of equipment, and they've moved up the small increase on small tools and equipment in the vehicle section of the transportation common services budget. All in, this budget moves up $37,200.
All good.
So next, we're going to move into transportation road transport. This is where all the work is done, all the repairs and maintenance and whatnot related to our infrastructure. We're looking at a change of $7,000 over last year, moving this budget to $789,300. It's an increase of 0.9%. Street repairs are moved up $9,000 from last year, and basically it's a reflection of actual for this year. We know that there are numbers of repairs that need to be done, so we have increased the street repair budget by $9,000. Storm sewer has been moved downwards by $5,000, and it's also a reflection of actual expenditure. Snow removal, we have left the same. We had built in something there earlier when the budget was first crafted. However, we did happen to end the year on the positive side of that expenditure line item. So we did remove the small increase that we had put in there. We do have, just for your information, an operating reserve related to snow removal. It contains about $50,000. So if there was a catastrophic storm and we needed the money, we could actually pull that money over to offset a catastrophic storm. Heaven forbid we have one. Street lighting has been moved up $1,000, and parking and traffic services, small increases there related mostly to wage increases of $2,000. And so the draft one of this transportation road transport budget has moved up $7,000.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell, you have a question?
I do, thank you. I need to go back to page 14 of this budget, and there is a $5,000 cost for professional/engineering, but we have a professional engineer, so I'm wondering what that expense is.
It also includes legal services. That's part of that legal account that is departmentalized, the legal costs that are departmentalized. So there are legal services, as well as sometimes there is the need to have an external engineer offer some expertise in some fields. So we build in a little bit of money there.
Okay, and on page 15-2, there's miscellaneous wages. I'm just wondering what that would contain.
Miscellaneous wages would be, well, wages that related to parking and other, that type of thing, that would be reallocated from the section. There's a lot of the public works wages are reallocated from the common services budget into other cost centers because they don't do their work in the common services budget, but they do their work in the street repairs or sidewalk repairs or snow removal or that type of thing. So that would be a reallocation of a public works employee to miscellaneous wages related to sort of parking or other, that type of thing.
Okay, okay, thank you very much.
All good, Deb.
Okay, we're going to move on then to public transit and other, which is, I'm just trying to find it myself. This budget has moved up to $12,200, 3.2%. We're looking at a budget of $388,600 related to public transit and other. We have King's Transit, which is a joint board, moves their budget upwards, operating and capital contributions, 20% of their budget we pay, $19,900, a slight increase to Kings Point to Point, $300, and debt interest in this particular section in the transportation section sits here, and it has moved down $8,000. All in, this budget is up $12,200 from last year.
All good.
Okay. We go into environmental health services. We're looking at this being where we have our garbage basically collected every other week. We have a reduction in this budget, $41,600, down about 5.9% from last year. We're looking at this budget totaling this year, $659,800. Solid waste collection related to tipping fees has moved up very slightly, $100. The landfill payment to the Kings County for the maintenance of the old Meadowview landfill. This is monitoring, has not changed. There's no change in that particular line item. The Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority has a new intermunicipal services agreement. Our share is 9.97% now, but it has moved down. The expenditures have moved down for that particular line item from $652,900 last year to $611,200 this year. It's a savings to us of $41,700.
All good.
Good. Okay. We're going to move into public health and other, which is housing and public health. We're looking at this budget moving downwards this year, $3,000 from last year. All in, this budget will cost the town $96,500. The majority of the cost for the $96,500 comes from the deficit of the Western Region Housing Authority. This is a mandatory cost. We build in about $90,000 every year. Last year it was $90,000, no change in the budget this year related to that. However, there were some changes made yesterday to the public health grants. They have moved down $3,000 all told. What we changed was the Chrysalis House grant that we gave last year of $5,000 has been removed. That saved $5,000. The Canadian Mental Health Association did not apply this year. $1,000 was removed based on that. The Kings County Family Resource Center was added, so we added that at $2,000. The Kings County Senior Safety Council was increased by $500, and the New Horizons Club also received an increase of $500. So all in, for all the grants related to public health type of initiatives, we have a reduction of $3,000 overall.
All good.
We're moving now into environmental development, or the planning department. This is the planning office expenses and remuneration section. We're looking at this increasing $5,000 or 2.1% over last year to $244,500. Remuneration, the COLA, etc., has increased this budget by $100. Office expenses are up $4,900. The major increase, of course, is the insurance, which moved from $4,700 last year up to $7,300 this year for errors and omissions. And there's a slight increase in the training budget of $500. Basically, those are the increases in this particular segment. We're looking at a $5,000 increase for planning and development.
All good.
Okay, we're going to move now into community development. This budget has seen a reduction of $43,300. It's down 9.8% from last year. We're looking for an overall budget of $399,000. Remuneration and benefits related to this particular segment have moved up $1,700. The transfer to the Valley Wren has also moved up $2,400. We talked about that before. The transfer to economic development, which is the transfer to Kentville Business Community, has moved up $2,100. Community economic development, its overall is down. We have some changes in community economic development. We have survey costs moved down $3,000, but we have the PACE program added at $5,000. Debt charges in this department have moved downward $6,300. Tourism has moved down $24,100. Of the Visitor Information Center is reduced $14,100. It's not opening immediately. It's unknown if it will open immediately, but we do have some money left in the budget in case we are permitted to open our Visitor Information Center later in the year. The Devil's Half Acre event, which had a $5,000 budget last year, is canceled this year, so that saved $5,000. All the festivals and events and public gatherings are canceled this spring and summer. So it's all due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Annapolis Valley Chamber of Commerce funding of $5,000 was removed yesterday at the budget meeting on grants, so that also affected this particular section. The promotions budget is down $8,400. Events are cut by $7,400. Marketing is cut by $3,000 due to the cancellation of the Apple Blossom Festival. However, we did increase the beautification budget by $2,000. We feel that by adding more flowers and whatnot to the downtown and the outskirts of the town would only add some pleasure to people who have been quarantined for the past 3 months and gives a little bit of joy to all of us. So we've increased that budget by $2,000. Basically, those are the major cuts in the promotion section. The Apple Blossom Festival is down $14,500 from last year. We did leave a little bit of money in that budget in case there is the ability for Kentville to take its float in the fall somewhere if there is some festival or some ability to gather in some fashion later in the year. We did feel that there could be a possibility that things might open up in the fall or the late fall. So we did leave a little money there for that. All in, this budget drops $43,300, and most of it is related to the pandemic.
All right, thank you. We've got a few questions that just went away.
Okay,
Oh, good.
so we move on. Going to move into the recreation segment right now. The recreation will also see a few slides. Recreation administration is the first slide related to the recreation department. We're looking at this moving up $25,700, 5.3%, moves to $506,400. Remuneration and benefits move upwards by the cost of living. We also have some QP members that are sitting in that budget as well, which were mandated a 2.1% lift. We also have a PSAB accrual that we have to record as well. So remuneration and benefits related to this department move upwards $11,900. Office expense is up $12,000. We have professional fees increased $4,000. We have committee meeting expense increased $1,000 for the accessibility committee, which is going to be meeting regularly. Training has increased $2,500 as well. There will be some staff taking an ICE course as well. And their insurance in that particular budget moved from $8,100 last year to $12,800 this year. It's $4,700 increase. Under vehicle, the insurance has moved up $1,800, but what we have discounted gasoline by $700. So you'll see a $1,100 lift in the vehicle expense section. All in, this budget moves up $25,700.
All good.
The next budget we're going to be looking at is the programs budget related to recreation. We're looking at this budget reducing by $45,500 this year. It's a decrease of 35.2%. We're looking for $83,800 this year. At the meeting yesterday, a $2,000 grant was granted to the Gloose Cap Curling Club. This is where this has been added. So we have a $2,000 add there to the grant section in the program budget. Under programs net, and this relates to a number of programs you can see listed on the page 21 of the swimming pool day camp, multi-sport camp, etc. We have reductions there in many of our segments. The swimming pool has been closed for the year due to COVID-19. So the swimming pool has been removed from this budget related to wages and benefits for the temporary employees in that section, as well as the revenue streams have also gone. We book the expenditures and the revenues there to show the net cost of what the town picks up for a particular recreation program. We have left some revenue streams and expenditures in the budget for day camp and the multi-sport programs that may possibly be held later in the summer months. We haven't wiped those out at this point in time. We hope that if that doesn't happen, that there will be a possibility for virtual provision of recreation services to the community through these programs. So we've left the money there for that. Funding is also left for the youth, seniors, and girls programs in the hope that social distancing restrictions will be loosened as the year progresses. And if they don't loosen the restrictions, the funding can be utilized to provide virtual programs. And the Parks Division has been decreased by $31,000 as the horticulturalist is not returning to the town this year. So all in, the program section is moving down $45,500 from last year.
Councillor Maxwell.
Deb, thank you. Deb, you may have answered this question for me in previous years, but when we do savings from this operations budget, where does that money go? The savings?
The saving, if the money isn't spent.
Yes. So we had money not spent because of COVID-19 through recreation programs and things like that. Does it go into capital? Does it go into reserves for recreation, or where does it go?
Any surplus that the town has at the end of the fiscal year, at the end of March 31st, has to be transferred to the town's operating reserve fund, and that is mandated by the Department of Municipal Affairs.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor. You're on mute.
Yes, I am. Sorry. I think we've been very generous on what we think is still going to happen, perhaps. Is the Canada Cup not canceled already? The bike?
The Canada Cup has been canceled. It was recently canceled, yes.
Yeah. So when you say whatever's left over goes into operational reserve, and I understand that, but technically what happens to that money? So conceivably Canada Cup, $30,000 in expenses. Where does that money go up until March 31st, 2021?
The expenses, because there is no Canada Cup being held this year, will not be spent. There's also revenue streams related to the Canada Cup. There's $25,000 budgeted for revenue to come in. That's not going to come in either. So the net savings to the town would be $5,000. The $5,000 would be what would be transferred to operating reserves.
So basically that $30,000 can't be spent. It probably shouldn't be spent. However, we don't know. Snow removal could come in $30,000 over budget. It may not be that we change that budget. That line item may not show an expenditure. It may be zero, but another department may, like transportation, snow removal could be over budget $40,000, and that would offset the $30,000 savings. So we'd have a $10,000 deficit basically in that case. So does that come back to council and say, we want to transfer this money from this account where it was supposed to go into this account?
No, all we do is report actual expenditures in each of the line items. That Canada Cup expenditure will be zero at the end of the year.
So conceivably, that $30,000.
You're frozen.
Someone hence or whatever, and just go out and buy them. Sorry.
I'm sorry, but you froze partway through what you were saying.
Yeah. So conceivably, that $30,000, someone could say, I want to go out and buy $30,000 worth of balloons.
No. Not on my watch.
No? No. But what else would that money, could it be used for? Something that
It won't be used.
it won't be used. Okay, all right, thank you.
All good, Deb.
Okay. We're going to move into recreation facilities. Oops, get my papers mixed up here. Recreation facilities. Recreation facilities is looking for a change, an increase of 3.3%, $19,500 from last year to a total of $609,200. Remuneration and benefits related to the arena moved down $800 and purely related to a change in personnel in that particular segment. Does include the QP increase of 2.1% as well as the PSAB accrual, but there were some staffing complement changes in that department. The building office is moved up $19,100 from last year. Under the building repairs and maintenance equipment, there needs to be a $3,500 repair to the brine pump, and there needs to be a $14,000 repair for plumbing issues related to the canteen office and whatnot. So there has to be some repair work done in the arena that has bumped that particular budget up, that segment up about $19,100. Under parks and playgrounds, all the parks and playgrounds are moving up $6,100. There is more property to maintain, and we will be hiring some summer students, and staffing will be working outside to maintain the parks throughout the summer. They will be social distancing and carrying out other protocol related to COVID-19, but there is a need to increase those budgets by $6,100. There's also some repairs that need to be made, some minor repairs to be made for damages that occurred during Hurricane Dorian and Tropical Storm Erin that took place in August and September of last year. Other facilities are moving down $4,900. The rec center repairs and maintenance increases $4,000 due to repairs to the upstairs bathrooms and that type of thing. Some paint and whatnot has to be done in the recreation center. Other facilities, the swimming pool repairs and maintenance account section has been moved down $10,300 as the pool is not opening this year. And so there'll be some savings in chemicals and power. So basically we're looking at this segment moving up $19,500. The most of it is coming in at the arena section for some repairs and maintenance that need to occur at the arena.
All good.
Recreation debt charges and cultural. So we have recreation debt charges and transfers to our other organizations and mandatory charges. We're looking at this moving up $10,000 from last year, 6.2% to $170,200. Debt interest, which is fixed in this department, has moved up $5,200 from last year. Transferred to the regional library is mandatory. That's moved up $5,800. As I mentioned, we've built in the increase that they asked for. However, we are paying right now on the old rate. The grant for Uncommon Common Art has been removed because this group has disbanded. So that grant was removed. $1,500 is out. And a grant to the Kentville Historical Society was increased yesterday by an additional $500. So that has been built in. So all in, this budget for debt, charges, and cultural has moved up $10,100.
All good.
We move into education, which is a mandatory cost to the province of Nova Scotia. We're looking at this being a reduction of $20,300 less than last year, down 1.3%. The provincial rate has remained stable at 30.48 cents per 100. Kentville's percentage in this particular Annapolis Valley regional group falls from 10.32% last year to 9.88% this year. As I mentioned previously, our student population fell by 27 students. We have 782 students registered in the Annapolis Valley district. The cost per student, just for your information, is about $1,964. And this is a unique formula. It's valley-based with all the valley towns, including Hansport, included in it, based on uniform assessment and student population.
All good.
So moving into the financing and transfers, and this is the expenditure side of the ledger. This is the transfers for debt principal and transfers to our reserve funds. And this is the change from last year. The debt charges principal, long-term and short-term, has moved down $45,900 from last year. We have some old issues that have been paid off, and the newer issues that we've been taking in the last couple of years have been much less than previous years. The transfer to operating reserve increases by $32,900. We always transfer $8,800 in for the election purposes, and we're transferring in $25,700 for no specific purpose, what we call general allocation. And we have some money going in for the settlement of the collective agreements, about $65,300. All in, we're transferring into our operating reserve $99,800 compared to last year's figure of $66,900. It's a difference of $32,900. There's no change in the transfer to our capital reserve. We're transferring the same amount into that reserve fund as we did last year. And capital paid out of operations relates to the purchase of the Kentville Police Services vehicle. It's moved up $7,500 from last year. We're looking at $46,000 being paid from the operating fund for the purchase of the new police vehicles compared to last year's figure of $38,500. And this will purchase one new marked car for the police service.
All right.
So we're just going to look at the expenditures all in. This is the whole expenditure budget. We're looking at a change of $215,600 or 1.6%. You can see each of the departments, the increases in each of the departments and the percentage increase related to that department. At the end of the day, we're looking at $215,600 as the increase in the expenditures. It's 1.6% increase. And interestingly enough, the cost of living in February and March is about 2.5%. So it is a little bit below the cost of living as reported in February and March. So that is the expenditure side of the ledger. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to just sort through a couple of things here.
Okay, while you're sorting, why don't we take a biological break? It is 10:40. We'll give 10 minutes. I would ask each one of the panelists to shut down your video and mute your microphone while we're on break. So expect you back here at 10:50. Thank you.
I can't turn my camera off. So I guess it'll have to stay on.
Kathy, do you see in the bottom left-hand corner there where you have your mute and then it says start video? Just click on start video.
I don't have a start video. I have more.
Is it in the bottom left-hand?
You need to move your mouse to be able to see those buttons, Kathy.
Yeah, I know. I can see everybody else's camera and I can see my camera. But when I go to put my mouse on it, it pulls down a mute button into my name and a more button into my name. So I can't do anything about it. I can mute, but I can't turn the video off for some reason. My entire screen is up underneath my, maybe if I try to move my, here, I'll hide that. Just a second. I just hid my videos of everybody. And
I did it for you, Kathy.
okay, now I don't know where where's my screen? Okay, thanks, Jason.
You're welcome.
Hello. How you doing?
Folks, if you're at your desk, please re-engage your video.
Jason will have to turn mine on because I can't turn it on.
Down in the left-hand corner?
Yeah, no, I can't. When I click on it on my video, I just get a more button. He had to turn it off for me. So, oh, here he goes. No, I still can't do it.
No, you're there.
Am I there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
I'm missing Lynn and Deb disappeared. Oh, there's Deb.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm waiting for Lynn.
There we go. All right, what's this thing? Okay, I can't seem to get back on here.
Jason, can you check Lynn's video? Her audio is working.
Okay,
There we go.
we're back.
All right, Deb, good to go.
Well,
Oh, Rachel just disappeared. Oh no, she's back. Never mind.
I can't, the PowerPoint presentation seems to have died on me. So Jason's gonna have to try to figure out why it has stopped. Okay, let me see if I can do something down here. Oh, okay. Now I think we're cooking with gas now.
Yeah, we got a visual.
Okay, we're moving now. That was the expenditure side of the ledger. That's the services we intend to provide to the citizens, the residential and the corporate citizens of the town of Kentville for the 2021 year. Now we're going to move into the revenue streams related to balancing this budget that we have in front of you. So the first thing we're going to look at is taxes other than taxation. We do have some other taxes that we collect that are in the section on taxation, but they're not related to the mill rates. We're looking at this a change in this particular section. This is section 2 of the budget. We're looking at this section changing upwards by 10.1% to $143,900. We're looking at this particular segment bringing in almost $1.6 million this year. Relates to increases in the Kentville Business Park, the assessment increase that I talked about earlier in the presentation. $26,100 will come in from the Kentville Business Park commercial. Fire area rate, we talked about this. This is the revenue that comes in, but we actually have the expenditure side, which is the exact same amount of money for the fire area rate. Therefore, it's nil effect to the town, but it does show in this section as an increase in taxation revenue. Hydrant area rate, the same thing, $81,700 increase. It relates to the addition of this on our tax bills, the hydrant area rate on our tax bills, but we pay this money over to the Kentville Water Commission. So the expenditure equals the same amount as the revenue. It's a nil effect to the town. Economic development levy is paid to the Kentville business community. We're looking at this moving upwards $2,000. And frontages relate to curbing billed to property owners in subdivisions over the past few years, in newer subdivisions. This is the interest component only. Those frontages are being paid down as property is sold. The frontages get paid out. So we're looking at this particular revenue stream moving downwards about $1,700. And then the funds received from Bell Canada based on revenue is moved down $700. That actually has arrived, and it did arrive right on budget. So, but compared from last year to this year, the figure is $700 less. So we're looking at revenue from taxes other than taxation, moving up $143,000, $900 from last year. Section 3, of course, relates to the payments in lieu of tax, that is based on rate. So there is no slide on that because it is based on the tax rates, which we'll show you in a few moments. We're looking at services provided, which is section 4 of your budget. We're looking at this change, moving upwards $16,900 from last year. It's about 8% increase. We're looking at the provincial secondment. This is a secondment of a Kentville police officer to the province of Nova Scotia. It's moved up $4,400. Once the APA collective agreement is ratified and signed, the province will pay any retroactive pay due to the town of Kentville. We have just built in an estimate of what we suspect that may be. Recreation is paid to the County of Kings. This is services provided to the County of Kings. Many of their citizens attend our recreation programs and facilities. The last 2 years, they have paid us about $51,000. We had budgeted last year $38,000 and they paid us $5,100. There is some work being done. They're massaging their recreation grants situation, and we don't have a clear-cut idea of where this is going to end up, but I have built in an additional $12,000 because the past 2 years they did remit to us $51,000. So that's an increase from our $38,000 that we budgeted last year. Local for the County of Kings Library, the County of Kings shares in 50% of the library lease only. That has been increased. The library lease, if you recall, has been increased by the cost of living, or 2.5%, as reported in the month of February. Our expense increased by that amount. So the amount that the County of Kings will pay for 50% of the library lease has moved upwards $500. So they will be billed for that additional amount. So we're looking at $16,900 as the increase in services provided.
All good?
The next section is sales of services. This is sales to not only our own funds, but sales to outside groups and organizations. So we sell our services, we sell our engineering services and our finance services and whatnot to our water commission and to our sanitary sewer area service and to our capital fund. That has moved up $11,300. It's mainly due to the raises for QP and the fact that we have an engineer on full strength for all 12 months this year. That was discounted last year by 3 or 4 months. Finance sales to the Kentville Volunteer Fire Department and the County of Kings Finance Department, and for Kentville provides all the accounting services for the fire department. That moves up by the cost of living adjustment. So we have a $600 increase there. Police sales related to back check have been moved down $15,000. Last year, back check did not meet its target of $490,000 or $590,000, pardon me. That budget was short by $28,000 last year. We moved it down $15,000 in hopes that there were some issues with staffing issues last year that caused this. And then, of course, we have COVID-19 as well that may or had affected it, but we're hoping that it will come on full strength. But we have discounted the budget by $15,000 from $590,000 to $575,000 this year. The street sweeper has been removed completely from the budget. We had budgeted $1,500 last year, but we're not selling any of that service to either shopping malls or to other municipalities. That hasn't occurred for the past year or so. So we're actually removing that particular line item to zero. We're looking at this particular segment, sales of services, moving downwards from last year by $4,600.
All good?
Moving on. Other revenue, this is own source revenue. We're looking at this moving downward $79,500 from last year. It's a decrease of 6.4%, brings in about $1.2 million all in. Fines and fees are down by $4,500. We're not providing taxi license services to the County of Kings anymore. On the rentals side, Due to COVID-19, we've removed a number of things from our budget. We've removed the home show, $40,000 loss. The loss of other arena rentals, we've taken that down by $5,000. The loss of ice revenue, we've moved that down by $15,000. We're still hopeful that the arena may be able to open in the late fall, early winter, and provide some recreational fun for our citizens and other groups. We've cut our field rent for renting our fields by $10,000. The pool revenue has been cut, and the rec center rent as well has been cut by $5,000. Miscellaneous is down by $4,000, and that's in the arena, and canteen has been moved down by $1,000. At the end of the day, you'll see that some money has been left in some of those cost centers. We're crossing our fingers that restrictions will be lifted later in the year and that we can provide some of these services to our citizens. On the interest side, we're looking at that moving down $20,000, mainly due to COVID-19. We have an interest forgiveness program from April 1, 2020 to June 30, 2020. We also prime rate reduced in 3 times in the month of March. The TD prime rate now is 2.45%. And we earn interest at prime minus 1.75% on our bank reserves. So we've moved bank interest down by $10,000 and tax interest also down by $10,000. We have some other decreases and increases in the other segments or miscellaneous segments of that particular section. It's going to move up $2,200 from last year. We have other revenue based on actual other revenue did exceed its budget last year. So there's going to be $2,000 built in there for that. Tax certificates also increased by $400. We're seeing more tax certificates being issued these days, which is good news. That binds the town for whatever the taxes are owing on the property versus a telephone call, which we don't give for free either. Bad debts have been moved down by $200. All in, this section has been moved down $79,500 from last year.
All good.
The next section is unconditional transfers. This is transfers in from the province of Nova Scotia. And we can spend this money on no specific purpose, any purpose that we deem fit. We have the Municipal Grants Act, or what was formerly called the equalization payment. There's no change in that. We get $167,800 every year from the province. That is identical to what we got last year. We're looking at the NSPI HST offset moving down $3,000 from last year, and it's based on actual averages. It's basically a wild card. You really don't know what you're going to get. We're trying to, sometimes we get a little bit more, sometimes we get a little bit less. I've actually erred on the side of caution and removed $3,000 from that line item based on the averages of the last 3 years. The Nova Scotia Power Grant is increased by $300, and we do know what that will be. So there'll be an extra $300 coming in for that. All in, this particular revenue stream, unconditional transfers, has moved down $2,700 from last year.
All good.
The next item is conditional transfers. Conditional transfers is moving also down $15,400, down 10.9% to $125,800. The federal grants have moved down $8,600, and a one-off grant from Central Kings Health has been removed from the budget. $6,800 has been moved out. That was a one-off. So we're looking at draft 1 on conditional transfers to be spent on a specific purpose, down $15,400.
All right, I guess that about wraps it up, doesn't it?
Nope,
Oh,
we got more. So other transfers to the reserves. This is on the revenue. This is transfers in from our reserve fund. So we're going to transfer money from our reserve funds, $191,500. It's a decrease from last year of $61,300. The transfers from the operating reserve is down $23,800 from last year, but this is what we are transferring in. We're transferring in $35,200 this year to offset parts of the election. If you recall, the election is $40,000. We already have saved up $35,200 to pay for that. Transfer from prior year surpluses is down 3 cents at $52,100. So prior year services, prior year surpluses are transferred in at a less than they were last year. We transferred in 186,500 last year. This year we're transferring in $156,000 from prior year surpluses that sit in our reserve funds. The transfer from the capital reserve down $7,300, as this last year was the final transfer in for that specific purpose. So that's gone out of the budget. That will not happen again. So this particular segment, other revenue transfers, is down $61,300 from last year. So looking at the summary of the revenue all in, we look at the entire thing. We have a very small change. It's actually, this is revenue other than taxation and all our other revenue streams. It's down overall $2,700. And you can see the amounts there that we spoke of on each of those slides. Draft 1 revenue summary other than taxation is down $2,700. So what we have is a surplus or a shortfall in our funding based on all what I've shown you on all these slides. We have the expenditures increase $215,600. We have other revenue decreases of $2,700. So the shortfall in financing the expenditure side of the ledger is $218,300. Budget to budget, new tax dollars that will come in based on assessments times the last year's rate. We're looking at $226,300 as what would be collected in new tax dollars. This gives us, for one of the very first years that I've done this job, a very small surplus of $8,000. What this means when we're looking at tax rates is that expenditures in this budget are proposed to be $13,480,600. Revenue other than taxation, which I just spoke about, $4,620,500, less the mandatory that we have to collect for the province of Nova Scotia, $1,929,300, leaves a municipal tax levy that we have to collect, $6,930,800. The net taxable assessment I spoke of before, way back at the beginning of this whole presentation, $521,363.05. That wasn't right. $521,363,500. Municipal general rate then, therefore, is based on these calculations here, $1.32, almost $1.33, and the provincial mandatory rate is 37 cents. It's actually down 3 cents from last year's general rate. The general rate combined, adding those two together, it's almost $1.70. Last year it was about 170, almost 173. So we're down about 3 cents in the general rate. Just for council's information, 1 cent on the general rate in 2020 equals $52,100. And that breaks down into residential $44,100 and commercial $8,000. The assessment increase for residential does affect the residential citizen. We're looking at the new assessment moving up because of the cap. On a $100,000 assessment, it would move up $1,000. What that would do to their tax levy it would increase their tax levy by $15.37 per year, from $1,537 to $1,552.37. It's a 1% increase. So what we're looking at, what we are proposing to you, is that we actually have a surplus of $8,000 at this point in time with this budget. We're looking at the listing of the residential and the commercial rates. You can see that in front of you. We have the mandatory rate, the fire area rate, the hydronary rate, the economic development rate. All those other rates are sitting there. For residential, they total just about 50 cents per 100. And for commercial, they total about 60 cents per 100. We're looking at a residential municipal mill rate of about $1.04, and we're looking at a commercial rate of $2.91.5. At the end of the day, what we end up with is the total residential rate staying the same as last year at $1.53 and about 3/4, and a drop of 1 cent in the commercial rate to $3.51 and about 2/5. So you can see the comparison of the rates last year and this year. And you can see that the residential rate, while the mill rates have changed slightly and the mandatory rates have changed slightly and the area rates have changed slightly, the actual total overall of the residential rate for the residential and resource citizen of the town of Kentville will remain exactly the same as it was last year. The commercial rates, you can see the changes as well in the various rates, but we have reduced the commercial rate overall by 1 cent. So what this does, basically at the end of the day, is no change in the total levy for residential citizens. You can see all the rates broken down there. You can see where the 1% is added in. That $15, we cannot escape from that. That is the lift in the cap. But at the end of the day, Kentville has held its residential rate in this proposed budget before you today at $1.53 3/4 for residential. What it does for the commercial rate is drops the commercial rate by 1 cent from 3.52 2/5 to 3.51 2/5. And basically that is the operating budget is presented to you by the directors of the town of Kentville, draft 1 today, May 20th. And I thank my fellow directors for all their input and support while preparing this.
Well, thank you, Deb. Thank you, directors. This is, given where we are, given the fact that the last 90 days, we've basically been confined to home, this is a really great budget. I guess not knowing what the future looks like, and hopefully it's a little brighter. This is very conservative in that I don't think we've left a little bit of wiggle room in case we get to open some of our facilities, and I think that we've done a good job. Is there any questions from members of council? Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a question. I just have a comment. And I just echo what you say to thank, Director Kroll and the rest of the staff for the hard work on this. To have our tax rate remain the same and our commercial rate go down is pretty extraordinary in these times. So thank you very, very much for that incredible work.
CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I'm sort of echoing Councillor Savage. When we as staff all sat down to look at the budget, it was, decided very quickly amongst all of the staff that this is an important year, that no further impact or hardships were put on the taxpayers of town of Kentville, and also the fact that a lot of the businesses have certainly had a very negative impact on their livelihoods, and staff, they were asked to cut, and they did. And from me personally to staff, they did an amazing job, and I thank them very much for their support in putting this together.
Thank you. All right, Council, are we ready to make a motion for recommending this budget to our 25th council meeting?
So moved.
All right, so Kate,
Second.
the seconder.
Second.
Thank you. So it has been moved and seconded that council recommend approval of the draft 2020-2021 operational budget in the amount of $13,480,600. May I confirm that, Deb? Is that correct?
You are correct.
Thank you. To the May 25th council meeting. Is there any discussion?
Question?
I have, before we go on, I do have a question. Under the police, we've got that GIS new. In my brain, GIS still means Geographic Information System. What does it mean in the police world?
General investigation section. So
Okay.
section of 1, but general investigations.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So that means they would take all the large files, so all of the sexual assaults, the break and enters, any robberies, so anything that's fairly time consuming and detail oriented. So actually including frauds.
Okay.
Because we didn't feel that the shifts were allowing us to give attention to those large files that our citizens deserve.
So would you consider this a new service or an augment of services that we're already providing to the citizens of Kentville?
Well, I guess it's a new position that we're doing the work. I don't know if we're doing it to the best of our abilities because it's taking us longer than it probably should. And I'm sure that's frustrating for some people. But I guess it's actually a position that the town used to have and cut a few years back. So it's bringing back that position.
Okay. Is this an armed officer position or is this I'm going to term it a civilian position?
No, this has to be an officer. So it's a new constable.
So it's a new constable, and that new constable could be used for other duties as well?
Yes. It also will free up my patrol officers to do more community events, which I actually feel is really important.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I guess we're ready for the question if there's no more discussion. So the question, oh, sorry.
Sorry if I just may. I just wish to clarify that the motion is to send this budget as presented to council's May 25th council meeting for approval. So
Yep.
I'm assuming there's no changes that council wish to make to this before it goes to the council meeting on the 25th?
There was none in the discussion, no.
Thank you.
So are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to recommend approval of the draft 2020-2021 operational sewer budget in the amount, oh crap, I'm reading the wrong one, sorry. Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to recommend approval of the draft 2020-2021 operational budget in the amount of $13,480,600 to the May 25th council meeting. Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Maxwell, how say you? Councillor Maxwell?
Unmute. Yes.
Councillor Pulsfer, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you?
Yes.
I say yes. The motion is carried. Thank you. Are we moving on to operational sewer budget?
Yes, I think Director Bell is going to take over on that.
Okay, very good.
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. Before you, hopefully you see the summary of the 2021 sanitary sewer area service operating budget. Start with revenue. Revenue for projected revenue is $1,285,100. This is an increase of $500 from last year, essentially no change. Under expenditures, the budget expenditures are $1,281,400, which is a decrease of $2,000 or 0.14%. Administration, this sector is increased $1,000 over last year. Significant changes are administrative salaries that are increased $500, and legal expense increased $500 due to outstanding sewer matters. Domestic sewer maintenance, this segment is increased $1,200 or 1.6%. And that's due to wages and materials adjusted. Pumping station maintenance is increased $5,100 or 9%, and are due to mostly due to an increase in insurance premiums of $4,800 and $300 from a wage adjustment. Treatment and disposal. This year we will be paying the County of Kings $793,500, which is an increase of about $32,200 or 4% over last year. This section records our share of the jointly funded sewer treatment plant owned by the municipality of the County of Kings. Under fiscal services, this sector decreases $6,500 and is due to interest on long-term debts that have been reduced. Capital paid from revenue, the sanitary sewer area service budgets a portion of its capital funding from its operating fund. This year, $30,000 is allocated. Move that out of the way here. Transfer to reserve. The area service attempts to tuck away monies each year to either its operating reserve or its capital revenue in order to ensure stabilizing the rates and to provide a pay-as-you-go capital. Sanitary sewer area service is budgeting a small annual surplus of $3,700. Under our area service reserve information rather, essentially it's unchanged. We have a with $15,000 is the only change, and that's a withdrawal from the depreciation fund, which brings our projected total to $518,572 for the projected fiscal year. That is the summary of the 2020-2021 sand sewer operating budget. Are there any questions?
Councillor Savage.
Worship. So Director Bell, the treatment disposal 793.5.
Correct. Yeah.
So I know our operating contribution this year was 757.1. So is that combined with operating and capital? Because I thought our capital portion was 18.2, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, maybe I have the wrong number in there. I have the right increase, I think.
It's
Councillor Savage, just let me double check here.
it's all in.
Yeah.
It's all in, Deb, capital and
All in.
operating? Okay, that's okay.
Correct.
That's
That's
great.
correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Bell.
You're welcome.
Oh, and Director Kroll.
So we're looking at a budget of,
Yeah, the budget is 1,285,100 is our revenue. Our surplus would end up being a small surplus of $3,700.
I'll move that, Your Worship.
thank you. Seconder,
Second.
thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council recommend approval of the draft 2020-2021 operational sewer budget in the amount of $1,285,100 to the council meeting on the 25th of May, 2020. Is there any further discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the draft 2020-2021 operational sewer budget in the amount of $1,285,100 to the council meeting on the 25th of May, 2020. Councillor Maxwell, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Pulsfer, how say you?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Andrew, how say you?
Yes.
Councillor Savage, how say you?
Yes. Mhm.
I say yes, the motion is carried.
We're back.
All right, so outstanding business. We have a meeting on May 29th with regards to the capital budget. This operational budget will come before council on May 25th. And if you have any questions, or if you get any queries along the way, please do not hesitate to bring those with you. And if you do have questions that you think will need a bit of research before the meeting, please send them along to the CAO so that she might get the directors to weigh in on those. Otherwise, thank you all for your work today. And John, did you have something?
Nope, just saying goodbye.
Okay. All right. Could I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Thank you, John. All right. See you Monday.
Right.